I want to start off by welcoming everyone here in the room as well as everyone who is watching online. My name is Drew Struby. I am one of the members of the, I believe it's now the Corporate Champions Committee, is I believe that we're have dubbed this. This is being a corporate connector fundraising breakout. I do want to make some introductions. To my right, the man who needs no introduction, Mr. Keith Majors, will be helping facilitate this afternoon. But also, I think the people that really everyone's here to see are our two corporate representatives, Hannah Ross, Senior Director of Marketing at CarStar, and Corey King, the Director of Field Marketing at Noodles & Company, two of our corporate champions this year. We're going to get the opportunity to hear their story and what really makes them want to engage with the CF Foundation and how you can tell your story when you're going in and making these presentations and making your asks for corporate engagement and corporate fundraising. Some of the goals that we have for today is obviously we want to make sure that you guys are knowing how to explain your story and how that is going to make an impact when you're going to ask corporations for for dollars is really what it comes down to. How you can best be prepared to participate in a corporate meeting. We want to make sure that when you go in there, the meetings are efficient and you're answering the questions and presenting in a way that is going to resonate with them and answer the questions that they're going to have. But then also describe the different ways, hopefully, that we can, you can engage a company or the company can engage with you at the local cystic fibrosis chapter. Obviously, we all live in cities, we all live in metros that have corporations that we want to engage, but how do we really get them engaged with the foundation outside of just, hey, here's some dollars to put a name on a sign? How can we really get them to become part of this story? Because I think we all know that once you're in, you're in. You're not going anywhere, right? So we'll make sure to do that. I will really actually just kind of turn it over to our panels to introduce themselves. Again, Hannah Ross, Senior Director of Marketing with CarStar, and Corey King, Director of Field Marketing with Noodles & Company. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, how you guys got involved, and what you have going on.
Sure. Thank you. Hey, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Hannah. I am here from a company called CarStar, and what CarStar is we call it a family of family businesses, but is the automotive franchise paint and collision company. We have almost 700 stores across North America. About 50% of them are in Canada, 50% of them here in the U.S. And I lead marketing for all of the franchise systems. So it's been a really cool journey that I've had both professionally with my company with cystic fibrosis and now personally as I've gotten to obviously learn a lot about it, make a lot of great connections, and be here this weekend for the first time. So just really honored. The way that CarStar got involved with cystic fibrosis was a pretty unique and great story, and I hope is really impactful to you guys. But 20 years ago, CarStar is celebrating its 30th anniversary as a brand this year. So we've been around for a while, but 20 years ago, one of our franchise partners, which is what we call our individual store owners, but he had a granddaughter that got diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. And back then, there were not 700 stores. There were just a handful of CarStar locations. And he band together with his other fellow franchisees, and this became their charity of choice, is what they called it. And so they started just doing little things that we have a whole month dedicated to fundraising throughout our company in both countries. But one of the activities they do is soap set up, car washes. Obviously, we're an automotive franchise business, so that makes sense. And we do car washes across every location. And it's huge, right? It raises a ton of money when you're talking about 700 stores. So what's even better about that is I heard the words today mentioned momentum and acceleration, and these are words that we use a lot when talking about our own brand. We're opening 100 stores a year right now. Our goal this year is 125 stores. So huge momentum in the company that I support, which also means huge momentum in fundraising. We had a goal, I think, when I first started with the company about 5 years ago of raising $100,000. And to put that in perspective, last year in 2018, we raised $514,000 for CF. So, yeah. So across the 20-year partnership, this year we're going to hit our $4 million mark in fundraising. So hopefully I have a lot of cool things to share with you guys about how we've done that. I myself have gotten even more involved, obviously, as the marketing representative of the brand. I'm very professionally committed to it, but also personally, I was a member of Charlotte Standout last year, so I have developed a lot of the personal relationships now with cystic fibrosis as well. So I would consider myself not just a corporate champion, but now even just a champion of the cause myself. So a pretty interesting story in that my job is what originally is my connection with cystic fibrosis. And I'm not sure that many people can say that, but I think it's very cool to see it from a different perspective and just the impact that now my company is having, and I hope that I'm having on helping you guys do what you do. So that's a little bit of my story, and I'm going to pass now to Corey.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm Corey King, and I am with Noodles and Company, and we're an organization. Hopefully you guys have been at some of our restaurants across the country. But we're a fast casual restaurant group based out of Colorado. It's where I started my path with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. A little bit before I joined the CF Foundation and Noodles, in what I call a marriage, I was a nanny for a family, and the little girl Kennedy has cystic fibrosis. So that's where I got involved with the organization. Kennedy is now 12, and so for the past 10 years, I've made this my personal cause. But on the flip side of that, I've been able to use my career as a path to kind of help continue to spread awareness and raise funds across the country. So Noodles and Company, we've got 450 or so restaurants across the U.S. And then this past year, we were the lunch provider at majority of the Great Strides walks across the country. So super cool partnership that we've been able to build, and hopefully today we can talk through how we're able to do that in different organizations and how you guys can get your foot in the door throughout your different chapters.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Keith, I know you've got a list of questions we're going to pepper them with and get some more information out of them.
I do. Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and sharing your stories is fabulous. It's two companies that do very well by doing good, and I think that's something that if we take that message to companies that we're trying to engage in and show the power that those companies have on their communities and how they can contribute to society by participating in any not-for-profit, but particularly Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So I'll start here with Hannah. How did you become engaged with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation? If you could share some more details. I know you started the story, but maybe a little more detail, a little color commentary.
Sure.
Thanks.
So when I joined CarStar is part of a larger automotive family called Driven Brands. Driven Brands owns Maaco, Meineke, Take 5, CarStar, among other automotive franchise businesses. It's the largest automotive franchise aftermarket company in the world. And so I had originally joined with Meineke, and then when we acquired CarStar back in 2016, I took a job with that brand, and it was very immediately obvious that brand was really special, and nobody could really figure out why. This brand came into this family of brands and just really stood out. They really called themselves family, and that was very new for our very big corporate company to have a family come in and treat each other like a family. And part of that is that when we asked what their original company goals were, right? Every other brand's talking about same center sales and profitability and growth and opening new stores. And while all of those things are very important, CarStar came in and their number 2 priority of the entire company was fundraising for cystic fibrosis. And the rest of the brands amongst the Driven Brands family were really shocked, right? Because that's a business objective. They really challenged that, and CarStar said it is. It's part of their cause marketing strategy, right? So especially in Canada, where we have this 20-year relationship. In the U.S., it's quite new. We're really only in year 2. CarStar US and CarStar Canada were separate companies when Driven Brands acquired them under kind of same umbrella. Now we've really merged them into a North American entity. And so we took on in the U.S. this Canadian long-standing partnership with Cystic Fibrosis Canada, where we've done incredible things. I mean, CarStar and CF in Canada are synonymous. They are in the same conversation across every marketing platform. We have NHL sponsorships and huge TV buys and things, and they're all part of advertising about CF too, right? That's part of who we are. And so we really are adopting that now in the U.S. So a lot of my journey has been really taking all these cool learnings from Canada and the ways that we've become really one in our cause, and transferring that now to our U.S. stores to help them understand the importance and what it can do, right? And in Canada, we just have these deep, deep roots of fundraising. And it's been really cool to see. We started last year, just our U.S. stores in their first year raised $100,000. So really trying to help them compete with Canada. And I'll make it a fun competition. But yeah, it started, like I said, it started with one guy. And I think that's really important for everyone to hear. It was one guy and it was important to him. And that one guy is now going to be a part of the business of 700 stores. And so a couple of things about that are very important to me is something I told someone last night. They said, well, how does that happen? Well, there's a lot of ways that happens, right? But one great way is to have an internal person at these companies that's your corporate champion, right? I am a corporate champion for these 700 stores that while they don't do everything that I tell them to do, unfortunately, they definitely listen, right? I have a great team of people that work with me to help guide them in their profitability and guide them in those sales numbers and the rest of the numbers they're trying to hit. And part of that is us influencing their fundraising. And so having someone like me that cares about it, that doesn't just look at it as another kind of number or a business goal, right? But having somebody that's really passionate about it is really key to getting in with these organizations. Find that person, right? And often it can be, as Corey and I sit up here as marketing leaders, it can be your marketing person, right? We can have a lot of influence on stores and helping them learn how to be successful at their business, whether that be food or automotive, or whatever it is. I actually think it's very cool that we come from two totally different industries that want to do great things in very different ways. And then my last point here is just another way to be really impactful. We have an annual conference at CarStar every year where we bring all of our North American store owners together, celebrate the successes, talk about goals, similar to the purpose of what you guys do here. And as part of that, we set a fundraising goal for that event and say, hey, franchisees, last year our goal was $40,000, which you'll understand why I laugh when I tell you in a second. We started the whole thing, so $40,000 and raised $40,000. That conference was only 2.5 days long and we raised $233,000. So, and I'll tell you why. It's pretty silly. We put a bell on the stage the last night and we said, if you come up here and make a donation of $500 or more, you can ring this bell. It's the dumbest idea maybe I've ever had. However, it worked and people got up and in the spirit of fun and competition and like a magic that's very, very hard to recreate, people wanted to ring the bell and be a part of something bigger. And it works, right? You get a couple of influential people that this matters to, and that's really how it started for us and how I think it's going to continue.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great story. Do we have a bell we can put up here? We can. Corey, maybe if you could share a little bit about your journey just in starting the CF journey a little bit.
Perfect. So as I mentioned earlier, with Noodles and Company, I started with them about 3.5 years ago, and CF wasn't really a partner. I think we had done a couple of walks, actually out here in California. And I knew that I had the ability to help develop the relationship across the organization. So literally, we just started slowly. We took it from the West Coast, where we're based in Colorado. We were going to the walks there. We were doing the climb. We were sampling food. Nothing too big. We weren't raising any money. We didn't have any teams. And then we slowly trickled that out and said, okay, well, what can we do in Utah? How can we get involved in Salt Lake? How can we get involved in Idaho? How can we get involved in Sacramento? And so on. All the way up till last year, it was, okay, Bethesda, how can we get involved at a national level? And what can we do? And how can we get into all these other individual chapters where I frankly don't know all these people? And, I'm here in Colorado and I've seen the folks in the West. But literally it was just, working through our local chapter connection, opening the doors to other chapters and just setting up basic partnerships. Noodles is different than CarStar because we're not turning over a check of $450,000. We are, however, using our people and our human influence, as well as our food. So, we all eat. It's a great thing to do, after you do a race or a walk or a run. So that's kind of how we kind of have gotten our foot in the door, to help on our end, when we talk about what our mission is at Noodles, it's to nourish and inspire every team member, guest, and community we serve. And so when I look at this partnership with the CF Foundation outside of my personal selfishness, I look at it as it's a no-brainer. It falls in line with what our mission is, and it really is allowing our team members on our internal side to get out into their communities and follow through with what our mission is.
Thank you. So those of you that don't know me, I'm from the Greater New Jersey chapter of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and one of the things that we do in our chapter is try to identify companies that we can approach that either have a logical connection to the CF community. We have a demonstrated interest in getting involved in fundraising, whether that's a bank or a law firm, or leverage the known relationships that we have on our board and say, an accounting firm, let's just say, or an auto dealership. And one of the things that we struggle with, and for those of you that are involved in corporate engagement, you may struggle with this as well, is where do you start? Where do you get that? How do you crack the door open? Where do you go? Do you look at emails from people in walks and try to identify somebody that works in that company? Do you cold call, the company and talk with somebody in their community affairs department? And it's one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm very interested in your maybe advice to these people. Obviously, CarStar and Noodles already have the seed planted and it's flourishing, which is great. But looking out in the audience in terms of maybe giving some folks advice in terms of how do they reach out to their local dealership, their local utility. How do you start that process? What's the advice that you'd give them?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something we're really still doing right now. It's a very timely question and relevant for CarStar in the U.S. as we have a lot of the local chapters and volunteers really trying to make this relationship deeply rooted here in the U.S. like it is and mimic those best practices like I mentioned in Canada. And what works really well, and keep in mind, we're a franchise business, right? These are all independent owners in their own communities. So while as the franchisor and part of that leadership team, we have a lot of influence. So I think you definitely have to have an in there to help you spread the message. But what works for our U.S. stores is people showing up and making personal connections with them and telling them the stories that I'm hearing all about while I'm here. And that's where we found success is we've had local chapters, local volunteers go in when our stores are kind of getting together as groups of stores in their regions. And they go in and first things first, they ask the store owners, and this is where it's been the most successful, what's important to them, right? What's the most important thing in your community? Because all these communities are going to be different, right? There's no secret sauce or even a secret marketing message that works across the country the exact same way. And so when CF has come in and they have assessed, hey guys, what's important to you? What do you guys do for charitable giving? In the U.S., they had a long-standing relationship with Make-A-Wish years ago. So that was really important already to them, right? Working with children, helping to make dreams come true. So there's your in, right? Talk about cystic fibrosis, what it is. And then when I say understanding what's important to them too, a lot of our franchisees have long-standing ties to things they already do in their community. So for a lot of our groups, they've been putting on a charity golf tournament for 25 years. So as a volunteer or a local CF chapter, you're a lot more likely to get them to transition their cause in the existing golf tournament to CF than maybe even participating in the walk, right? They don't know CF yet. They know what they do. And these business owners know what works for them and they know what the community knows them for. And what's really been great to see is them being really open-minded, more than I think any of us even thought they would, to sort of transition their existing causes or their existing community events and fundraisers they were already doing for years to be about cystic fibrosis. So that's been actually a unique take and a lot more successful than CF kind of coming in and saying, here's the menu of things that we do. Do you guys want to do any of these things? Mm-hmm. I think you can get there. But to start, it was, hey, what do you guys do? What's important to you? And kind of what are the existing community ties? And these business owners are really a lot more open-minded that you think about kind of hearing your story and shifting what they do to be about CF versus coming in and just saying, well, I don't really understand CF and I've never done these walks before. And what we're seeing from last year is that while CF got in and became part of some of these golf tournaments or these different things, now this year those groups are doing the walk and getting teams together. And so it happens. It just takes a little bit of time. So some advice I would give to you guys is have some patience. Get to know the people that you are talking with. They're not just corporations. These are people. They're business owners. They're members of their community. They're moms and dads. And I think understanding what's important to them, that's your in. And I think it's really easy to forget that, and it's easy to go in with a plan. But I think going in without a plan might be the best plan. And listening to them and kind of understanding, finding your in that way. We talk about the personal story a lot. I think understanding the other side of the personal story is what is theirs. And being able to relate to that. We've seen a lot of success, and I think we'll continue to see that grow in the U.S. where they naturally want to be involved with all the amazing things and events that CF does, but they get there in their own time.
Hannah, let's just stay on this topic, because that's very good. So during that initial meeting, right? And listening is obviously very important, and making that company feel comfortable. And one of the things that I've always said when we have calls, right? My line is always, you want to get to a yes, right? Get to a yes. Get to a simple yes. Get to what makes that company feel comfortable in what they want to do and what they want to accomplish in terms of, adjusting their perception of their business in the community or whatever it is. And, if you can get to a yes to say, look, we set up in your lobby, with information on CF and just be there. There's no cost to the company, but yet there's an engagement. There's a connection, and it shows that you care, and also you get to a yes. They get to know you. There's a trust factor. Absolutely. That's very, very important in this relationship that you're building. When a CF team comes in and wants to talk to you, what message resonates with some of the franchisees? What message do they hear and they say, yeah, this makes sense to me? Or is it maybe the method of delivery, perhaps? I don't know. Or is the message? I'm not sure.
I think it's the method. I think the message has been made pretty clear to them. They've at least heard about it and understand enough to be dangerous, but it's the method. It's going in person. And we've learned that over the course of several years. The emails don't work. Not even a phone call sometimes works, right? These are busy business owners that are focused on things, but figuring out when their meetings are, where they're going to be together, where they're going to be talking about decisions. It can be monthly for them, quarterly, but there are times when they're together, and I would assume that's the same for probably any franchise business. They come together to make decisions together at some point, and figuring out when those meetings are, and can you get a little bit of time on the calendar? Can you show up? And just be a regular person. Talk to them about what you do and who you are. Maybe bring a family. I think we all know, we actually have in Canada, at their regional meetings now, they invite CF families to come from time to time, and they take them out to dinner, and it's literally a part of the way they do business. And that's the goal, right? Let's get everyone to that place. But that's how deeply rooted these relationships are now, because they came in person. So I think for us, for my business, it's been the method of really showing up and continuing to show up and continuing to build that personal relationship. And that has really influenced the business owner's mindset of doing some great things with the chapters and with the volunteers.
Thank you. Corey, we can go back to the first question in terms of advice that you give the audience in terms of getting that initial meeting and how to set that up, and not for the noodles, but maybe for other businesses in your experience.
Gotcha. So I think whenever I look at setting up a meeting, like through the corporate lens, obviously you want to kind of know what that corporation is about, what's important to them. You don't want to go in blindly, just walking in and spouting off everything about cystic fibrosis and we want to partner with you. That's awesome. But I think you got to kind of figure out what is it about their corporate culture? How does this fit into the organization? And play off of that, because, when I think about Noodles and I think about any organization, I mean, we probably get asked 100 times a week to partner with various different organizations, and obviously we can't partner with all of them, but the organizations that we do pick are the ones that fall closely in line with what our company values are and what our corporate culture is. So understanding what that is and who you're talking to, I think goes a long way. I think on the other side of this is, when we think about the families that we have in the CF family, I can't imagine that if Drew and Jackie were to roll into an office and share their story, not many companies would turn them away. So I think it's important, again, to go back to what we've been talking about all day about the story, making sure that you have a story that's really going to connect with your audience of whoever you're talking to. Because that, for me, that's why I'm sitting up here. It's why I'm involved in the CF Foundation is all of these stories. So I would say, if anything, it's making sure that you're well versed in, the organization that you're pitching, and then also bringing that story to life as you're sitting there.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe back to Hannah, if we could. So we're talking today about the important role that volunteers play in building corporate connections. Just tell us maybe how sharing a personal story or connection to a cause helped you decide which organizations to support, maybe if it's beyond the CF organization.
Sure. I think when you think about a corporation, too, large companies like Corey and I work for, these companies also want to know what's in it for them, right? They're going to pick a cause. They're going to do some cause marketing. It's 2019. I think large companies are wise enough to know that this should be a part of their culture, and it's what attracts great talent. It's also why people want to get up and go to work every day. It's part of the company culture. And I think that for our company, that this cause marketing, what they get back from it, is a great connection with a great organization, right? And what's really cool about it is you can find, to what Corey's talking about, things that are similar, right? CarStar was a little small, tiny, we call it a disruptor. It was back in the day, it started as kind of a training facility for automotive mom and pop shops. It was a great way to train them how to be operationally better. Now we're a huge franchisor that a lot of insurance companies want to work with, which is why a mom and pop would want to be part of our family, our brand family. And so I think, this gentleman whose granddaughter had cystic fibrosis, right? He was passionate enough about it to have a story and to go out and share that with his fellow franchisees. There's nothing the franchisor could have ever done that would have been more powerful than that in the message. However, because of these deep-rooted relationships and fundraising, the reputation now is that of that CarStar as this big company, this big franchisor, cares about people. And that's hugely impactful for a company. And that can be part of your sell, right? You go in, especially to a big corporation that maybe doesn't have a direct cause or has too many. I think a lot of the times everybody wants to support everything, and that's almost not as impactful as doing some of the things that we do. And CarStar was the little engine that could. Now we're, like I said, growing by 125 stores a year, really in conjunction with a lot of the great strides that CF is making kind of at the same time. So what a time, right, to be in partnership and growing together. And that's a great story for our brand, right? Not just for the great things that we've done for CF, but what an awesome thing for a company like CarStar to be able to say, we're part of this and we've had an impact, and we're seeing drugs and things come out that we know we've had a direct tie to, and what a celebration for them. So I think also kind of the what's in it for you, there is something in it for a big company, a big brand. And I think don't forget to sell that message in the right way. Cause marketing can be very, very powerful thing and a really awesome thing for companies to open their minds to, and share their success with. And our company has had a lot of success, like I said, in Canada, but here in the U.S., the doors are opening all the time now with our franchisees to understand the power of cause marketing, even little things, starting small. CF sharing things about us on social media and us doing the same thing for them. That's an easy start, right? It's an easy place to start. Putting things on our website about how you can donate to CF. That's an easy way to open the door for our customers to go and learn about CF or hear about it. So, I hope that answers the question, but just a few ideas.
Yeah, no, it does. What has the reaction been from your customer base?
Yeah.
Have the customers commented specifically to the franchisees to say, hey, it's great to see that you're doing these things for the community?
Yeah. What's cool is not only is it customers, but even some of our vendors, paint partners, people that we work with in the automotive industry have taken notice. And these are also huge companies, Axalta and BASF and Sherwin-Williams, all just big vendor partners of ours. And they've been willing to do things for us to help support the cause, which is really incredible. Then you're getting the power of a brand like CarStar plus the power of all of our corporate partnerships. So it's 6 times the amount of people helping towards the cause. So that little spark, right? That personal story of our franchise partner really created a wildfire of fundraising. And like I said, it took a couple of corporate champions along the way, people in leadership roles that were really passionate about it to share the story. But it's really inspiring the individual store owners. They're the ones doing the fundraising, right? We're giving them the tools to do it. We're telling them the importance. But the relationships they've built with people like you is what actually makes it happen. So I think that is the most highly valued thing that we as the corporate leadership team think about is our individual stores doing fundraising with volunteers and CF chapters is pretty incredible. And I mean, it's raising $500,000 a year. It's fantastic. Our goal 3 years ago was $100,000. Our goal last year was 375. We raised 514. Our goal this year is 400. We'll probably raise 6. I mean, we're just going to beat it every year, right? That's the goal. And just keep going. So I think the personal story is what started it all. But the power is in the personal connections with volunteers, local CF chapters, and our individual store owners.
Great. That's amazing. Corey, how about you? In terms of your reaction from your customers, they walk into Noodles & Company store and order and see this information either on your website or in the store. What's the reaction from your customers and maybe your vendors as well?
So, because our partnerships are a little bit different with the foundation, they're at that super local level. So not so much at the major corporate level, which is the difference between the two of us. Right. So our general managers and our area managers and team members in a particular restaurant are really where we hold that relationship with each of the local chapters. So from the standpoint of vendors seeing us and what's on our website, that's not the case on our end. However, when we go to these walks, we always get emails back in from folks that have been at the walk, or people pull us aside to say, thank you so much for supporting the foundation. On the other side of that, we also then get these families that say, hey, we want to host fundraising nights in your restaurants. So that's another way that we're able to give back, is when we have a dine-in night or a fundraising benefit, whatever you want to call it, where we give back a percentage of our proceeds. So we see that on that end where, the folks that are at the walk or the climb or whatever the event is, we kind of get recognized on that end as well.
Okay. Great. That's amazing.
Awesome. I believe, is that all that we had?
That is all the questions,
okay.
but maybe I'll go. Can I go off script?
Absolutely.
All right, good. Because I found this conversation amazing. So does anyone else have a question?
Well, I know we're going to get to that.
We're going to get to that?
We're going to get to that. So the first thing we wanted, yes.
All right.
So we'll get to those.
So we're back on script.
We're back on script.
Right.
Sorry. So we do want to get to some roundtable discussion. I mean, this is the opportunity for everyone here in the room to, again, so if you're at a table of one or two, go ahead and hop over to another table. But you've got some packets on your tables there with some different questions that we would really encourage you to kind of look through. But we will also have some questions that are rolling up here. Talk through this at your table, and if you're online at home, think through these questions as well. And obviously, feel free to submit those via the website. But we're going to take about 15, 20 minutes. We will be running around. We will have 10 minutes. Sorry, we're going to take 10 minutes. We're going to have facilitators help running around. I'm getting 10 in the back room. We're going to be running around helping you with that, and then we're going to have the opportunity to share your aha moments from these discussions as well as this the panel, and have your opportunity to bounce ideas off of two people that are helping make these decisions in the corporate world. So take your 10 minutes. We'll be right back. If you're online, don't go anywhere. Think through these things yourselves. All right. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to actually get to the point where we're going to have the opportunity to continue conversation with our panelists. Can I ask Hannah and Carrie to come on back up? Keith, come on back up. So we have a few people here in the room that have a mic. If you would like to share an aha moment from your table, maybe, hey, this is an idea we had, or this is a takeaway that we had, we can go ahead and do that. While people are getting the mustering up the courage to do that here in the room, I do have one online question. And I think that this is probably a question that a lot of our people here in the room as well as online are probably wondering. So I'd really love to get your feedback here. I know you guys both kind of mentioned that, sometimes there can be a charity that's already involved. So this individual says, I work for a Fortune 500 company that already has established quote-unquote charities of choice. What's your advice on how to solicit funds from a company that already has some established connections? Did Keith take your mic? Someone took your mic. That's all right. So what's a way that you would say if there's a large company that already has established connections? So for instance, I work for a large insurer in Des Moines, and we've got a big, I don't know, I can't remember if it's Make-A-Wish or, it doesn't matter. But they're already established with somebody, it's not CF Foundation. What's a great way that someone could go ahead and try and get their foot in the door at a company like that?
Perfect. Sorry I stole it. We actually just had this conversation at our table. So I work for a company. We already have a charity of choice at the national level, which is No Kid Hungry. Totally makes sense. We're in the restaurant business. every company is going to have multiple partners. And so just because you have a huge national partnership with No Kid Hungry doesn't mean that we can't help out the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation or the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So I don't think that should ever be your hard stop sign. I think there's lots of ways organizations can get involved. Again, from our end at Noodles, it's not always a check that we're handing over. It's a lot of in-kind, in-people, human resources. So don't get stopped at that, oh, well, they already have, Make-A-Wish or whoever it is in Des Moines.
Perfect. And how about CarStar?
Yeah, just to echo that, I think that you all know this already, but as an outsider coming into your conference for the first time, the other organizations don't have you. So I would say don't discredit how powerful this group of people is and this smaller organization is with people that are super hungry to make a difference. I haven't seen that across some of the other organizations, and while they're all worthy causes, I think the CF chapters and volunteers are really willing to show up very much in person, very much tell their stories, and do a lot of go that extra mile. And I think that's really impactful for a company that's either already has a cause or is open to adding in more. And at least for us, we had this established relationship in Canada. We had no personal relationship to CF with any of our stores in the US, which is where we're seeing a lot of growth. And we really just started to say, like, hey, this is something we care about. This is something we care about. Enough people showed up at their doors and made friends with them, introduced them to CF in their own ways in their own communities, to where they all started to say, I think we do care about this. And so I think that's also something that you guys as an organization have going for you that maybe other charitable causes don't, is that you are still a kind of a lean machine. And I think that there is a lot to be said for the fact that a lot of these volunteers keep showing up and keep building those relationships. And that has certainly, we have seen that make a huge difference.
Awesome. So it sounds like the takeaway there is don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep going. We've got a mic here. We'll get here next. So what aha or question do you have for our panel? Are we on?
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. I was sharing that in San Diego to look at your volunteers and what resources they have. So we have a team that has done great strides a lot in the past, and they were getting a little bit exhausted with having to do it. And they ended up asking one of their friends that owns a franchise group of Hallmarks if he would be willing to do a pinup campaign. And they've been doing it now for years for us. And they raised, I think, about $7,000 this year. And all the employees get very excited about it. They compete which store can raise the most, which store has the top employee. And that way, the team is still engaged, even though they might not be doing the fundraising on their own, but they found somebody else that will help them continue it, and they can have a little bit of a break from so that they're not getting burned out.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know we've got another question or aha here at this table.
This is actually for Hannah. And by the way, yes, we are all a great group, so we are second to none. Yay, CFers. But Hannah, do you have a list of sites and new stores that we could potentially start pounding and knocking on doors?
Oh, we're getting specific.
And,
Absolutely.
really, because if we are in competition, we want to be in it full-fledged. So I would love to see a list and see how many there are in our region and start knocking on doors.
100%. We have a combination in our company of groups of stores that come together. So if they're all in one city or in one region, they're pretty powerful groups of stores. I have a couple of those big groups that we consider leaders in the company where we were joking this morning, whatever St. Louis does, everybody else in the company wants to do it too. There's a great group of stores. So we've got some of those leaders, which are really great high opportunity groups of stores for you guys to hit, which I have literally one-sheeters about every one of those groups for you guys. But then also the individual stores that are not part of a group, that are maybe out a little bit by themselves. That's a great opportunity too. They maybe aren't already doing something and they want to be known for something in their communities. So huge opportunities. I mean, these are very successful business owners who know what they're doing and would love to make that connection. So yes, to answer that question.
Perfect. We'll look forward to that list. Any other question? I mean, what other? I've got one right here in front. Or are we going? Where are we going first? Right here up front? Absolutely.
Okay. Let me just flip the coin a little bit. Does the foundation or the district chapters or anybody promulgate a list of corporations that already have nice relationships with us so that we as customers might be able to, I hate to admit this, but I'd never even heard of CarStar or Noodles, but if I ever have another wreck, I know where I'm going.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious,
You'd like to know, if I'm hearing your question correctly, you'd like to know who are our corporate partners
exactly
that
right.
we can actually help go and support them.
Who can we?
I believe that there's
Do you
probably,
want me to
Liz
answer?
probably has that answer.
Okay. Hi, guys. Yes, and we could do better to do that. We do have on cff.org, we do have a section that is specific to our corporate supporters. It outlines the folks that are supporting us at $100,000 and more. It's part of our way to recognize and thank them. So there is a list of those companies on cff.org, but we can absolutely think through what that would look like to be more transparent to you guys as volunteers so that you can go out and support the businesses that are supporting the foundation. Absolutely.
And as part of the committee, obviously, one of our goals is to help recognize these corporations that are partnering with us. I mean, that's one of the big things at the honorary dinner tonight. We're going to acknowledge these companies. So a couple of things I'd say: show up to the dinner, pay attention to the people, and give them the support that they've given back for us. And you'll get a lot of understanding as far as those high dollar donation companies. But yes, we can definitely do a better job of spreading that love and that information.
And I think that that's a great idea, an opportunity for us to work with the chapters to make sure that locally you all know who the businesses are that are out there supporting. I mean, sometimes they're on the back of your walk shirts and stuff too, but companies are involved in so many different ways. So absolutely, that's a great idea. So we could definitely do that.
And just to echo that, something that Liz and I have been working on this year is even us creating some training pieces for the local chapters so that we're listing out, here's all the stores, their addresses, here's the store owner's name, here's my name if you need to help somebody that's on the inside make the connection. Because I've talked about that being a great thing, is to have that advocate as well. And so we're creating even some materials for those big groups of stores that I talked about that are influential, so that our volunteers and our chapters have those lists and can really get after it. And we certainly encourage that. And we let the stores know, hey, these people are going to be reaching out to you. Call them back. They're awesome. And it's worked well. So.
Right. And one thing that we're working on at the committee level is pushing the foundation to really identify those corporations, and I'm not going to drop names, but there's companies that are located, in my case, in New Jersey, right? And they may be in the medical device area or something like that, and they've supported Cystic Fibrosis Foundation and want to get involved, and they have subsidiaries across the U.S. And so how do we say, all right, at corporate we've got support, and then all right, let's go out and talk to these other sites, and so. That's what we can do, to Liz's point, in terms of things we can do better. I think we do an amazing job chapter by chapter in terms of identifying what companies, we have connections with, and getting out there and pounding the pavement and working the network that we all have. But trying to broaden that web, I'll call it, and really get out there and say, all right, we talked with, a major telecom company, and how do we then leverage that out and say, okay, now, introduce us to your, New York location, your Philadelphia location, your locations in Iowa, and make our lives a lot easier, because getting that number one, that first connection, right, and getting it is so difficult. How do you leverage that out, to the maximum extent possible?
I believe a lot in the power of putting my sales money, my consumer money in companies that I believe in. And so there's an app called Goods Unite Us, which I think might be able to come up with something analogous for the CF Foundation. So that app is like, you can look up a company and sort of see where their political donations have gone and support, you can see if they align with your own personal views. Maybe the CF Foundation can do an app like that puts, the names of the companies and that support us, so that it can be really widely available and easy to look at when you're in the middle of making a decision. Go to this store or that store. So just an idea.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more. How about this table up here? They have an opportunity.
Hi. This is like an idea that is still from Salesforce, a company I worked previously. They donate time and some of their products and their resources, and this can be a lot easier sell than money. And I think of it as kind of like, if it's a sales thing, it's a land and expand type of opportunity. You got to sort of like build the awareness, and you could just like my wife Sharon was saying, they could just host, lend their office space to host events, which is a sort of easy sell because it's not anything to them. They just lend the space. I think this is a fairly effective strategy to sort of, especially in the smaller companies, to kind of like build awareness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one question I actually had for Noodles. So obviously we spend a lot of time trying to raise money, but a lot of these events that we put on cost us money. And so it sounds like you do a lot of in-kind donations on that side. What's the best way to approach an organization? So for instance, I know we do a big wine opener, and so we try and bring in a lot of different companies to sample out food to help provide food for these people that have paid $100, $150 for a ticket. What's the best way to approach some of them to get some of that in-kind donation and get that different type of sponsorship?
Absolutely. So Noodles does majority of our work is in-kind donations. So when we look at our partnership this last year, it was roughly $150,000 in food. To us, that's an easy sell. Everyone has to eat, and we do food, and we think we're the best at it in our category. So I think ultimately it's knowing if you are having a party, or even your wine vendors, beer reps, all of those guys, we all have the ability to give away food and product. It's just knowing the right person to get to, whether that be if you're going to the website and you're filling out a form for a donation, or you're at a walk and you see these vendors out there. I mean, I know for me, when you guys come up to me at a walk and you say, I'm so-and-so and I'm having an event, can you do food? I'm going to say yes. So the more that you guys can get out in front of these people that are already supporting, the better. But I think ultimately the answer is always no if you don't ask. So I think you should always ask, no matter what vendor it is, all the way to, you might be looking for actual funds, or it might just be that you need an auction item for your event. Every organization, especially in my space, when we look at our competitors like Chipotle or Qdoba, we all do the same thing. We all have these food budgets. We all have the ability to give away swag or you name it, whatever it is, we can help from that in-kind standpoint.
Awesome. So what I heard is go to another walk and snipe vendors. Okay. All right. Perfect. We got another question right here.
I work for a franchisor, so I understand from your point perspective of we also have our own foundation, but our corporate office does donate to our team, along with people within our organization. If they donate to Haley's Comets, they match that. We also do Dine and Dash. We lead the Great Strides, so it has given us vendors to donate food as well.
Excellent. Got a couple more here. This table right here.
How would we find out who to contact? For like local franchises. I organize a walk in May, and we always try to get breakfast donated, and we always try to get lunch donated. And last year, we had this local bakery that were like, oh, okay, you can have our leftover day olds. Well, I went to pick them up, and I had one muffin for 150 people. So how do I get, like, some of my local, like, Dunkin' Donuts or, for us, that's what's local for us is Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. How do I get a hold of them to get an in-kind donation to be able to help with this?
So I think it depends on the organization structure. So on Hannah's side, she's franchise mostly, where those owners are going to manage their business at that super local level. Where at Noodles, we manage our business at a corporate level. Not saying that if you walked into a Noodles today and you talked to a general manager, the general manager might say, I would love to do this, let me get back to you. They're then going to funnel that information to me and my team. So it depends on how they're set up. But I would say ultimately, first and foremost, it's that super local level. And again, telling your story of why this is important, how it can impact our community and their business. I think that's the start. And then outside of that, I mean, every single restaurant organization has a website. Every single one has a way that we give back. And there's always a food donation option. And that form typically goes up into the corporate office to whoever manages those teams. So super local, inside the four walls, and then probably follow up with the email or some sort of form on their website.
I know we literally have minutes left, and I know this gentleman's raised his hand a couple of times. Just yell.
I'll make it really quick. So, you talk about the young leadership groups, right? So that's a key for me. I've been in corporate America for 30 years, right? So, from that standpoint, we have a lot of management development programs, and those management development programs. And Keith and Michael talked about, not hitting the ball out of the park the first day, right? Let's go for the future, right? So a lot of these management development programs, they rely on community involvement, right? Each of these individuals has to have a community involvement piece. So if you've got a business in your area, if you can get the CF walk or those things tied to that leadership program, you can get them young, right? And they're in. It's like Justin. Justin's here. He was looking for something. He made it grow, right? So if you can get somebody young that's tied to CF and then make it build from there, right? So someday they may be the CEO or the vice president, right? That has that CF story that stuck with them, and maybe they can grow from there, right? So
Great
it's not
point.
hitting the ball out of the park.
Great point. Hook them young. Once we get our hooks in them, we're good. Awesome. Well, I know we're out of time. I appreciate everyone for taking the time. Thank you, everyone online, for being a part of this.